Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the University of Adelaide's 3 Minute Thesis event. My name is Jessica Gallagher and I'm the Deputy Vice-Chancellor External Engagement here at the University of Adelaide, and I'd like to thank you all for coming along for what is going to be a very enjoyable event. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the Kaurna people, the original custodians of the Adelaide Plains and the lands on which the University of Adelaide's campuses at North Terrace, Waite and Roseworthy were built. Many of my colleagues know, but I'm actually not a South Australian, I'm a Queenslander. I'll talk a little bit about that throughout the speech. But one of the things that amazed me when I first moved to South Australia was how many people were able to do the acknowledgement to country in Kaurna language. And so it was an absolute commitment in my first year here, last year, to learn how to do that. So if you will indulge me, I am going to use a little bit of Kaurna and do the acknowledgement in their language. Manina Putni, Naglu Tambandi, Naglu Kaurna Yatanga Tikindi. So very pleased that you're here and acknowledging that we meet tonight on Kaurna country. I'm delighted that we're able to hold the 3 Minute Thesis competition here in the Brags in person again after quite a number of years of disruption, that little thing called COVID, which I know most of us have kind of blanked out of our memories now, but was somewhat painful for gathering for events such as this evening. So it's really nice, and I know that our PhD, HDR students who are going to present their 3 Minute Thesis for you this evening will be appreciative of the fact that there is actually a live audience here. The 3 Minute Thesis is a national competition which sees PhD students compress years of research into just 3 minutes. The concept was developed by the University of Queensland back in 2008. And it actually gives me even greater joy to be here to talk to you about the 3 Minute Thesis, because I was actually part of the team that developed the 3 Minute Thesis competition at the University of Queensland. So many, many moons ago, a few less grey hairs, a few less wrinkles, I actually worked with the graduate school at the University of Queensland. And the logo there, the 3 with the clock and the MT, my team actually developed and trademarked that logo. And we hosted the first Australian competition for 3MT and then took that to the world with the Asia Pacific competition. And so I was speaking with my colleague, the fabulous Professor Laura Parry, just before about how fun it has been to be part of something that's had this incredible impact and this durability and this longevity to it. So what's been fantastic is how well the competition has been embraced since 2008. And in fact, it's actually been adopted by over 600 universities in more than 59 countries around the world now. I think the reason that it has resonated so well is that for many, research can seem impenetrable. The great thing about working for universities is that you are surrounded every day by these really smart, really talented people. But if you ask them what they do, they will speak to you in a language that may as well be ancient Latin or some other lost language, because unless you really understand the terminology and the lingo of a particular discipline area, it can be lost. And that's what has changed with the 3 Minute Thesis competition, because it has really provided an opportunity for our PhD students to hone their communication skills, but learn how to articulate the value of their research in language that's accessible to all. And why is that important? Well, because PhD students need to be able to communicate to industry and government the importance of their research in order to access funding and career opportunities. They need to be able to communicate it to the broader society so that people can understand the importance and the impact of the work that they're doing. And they also need to justify their life choices to friends and family. Everyone who thinks about, why on earth would you do a PhD? And I know that this group in front of me this evening all has had that horrible moment where they've been asked by a friend or family about what is your PhD about? And you really just want to curl into a little ball because you're still trying to work that out for yourselves, right? They're laughing because they get it, and they will explain it all to you this evening. So dozens of research students in each faculty have been vying for a place at these finals, and today we'll hear from 10 of the best. The winner will go on to represent the University of Adelaide at the Asia Pacific Finals. So we wish all of them all the very best of luck. I'm sure that they will do themselves, their supervisors, their faculties and the University of Adelaide proud. But before we launch into our 3-minute thesis, our 3MTs, I'd like to invite Professor Laura Parry, who is our Pro-Vice-Chancellor of Research Excellence here at the University of Adelaide, to talk to you more about the competition and the fantastic work that the research portfolio does at the University of Adelaide. Laura.
Thank you, Jessica. And I would also like to start by acknowledging that we meet on the land of the Kaurna people and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Research Tuesday series is a really important mechanism by which the university can engage with you, the broader society, about the excellent work that we do here and the research that makes a real difference to people's lives here and around the world. Now, normally, you would come along to one of these Research Tuesday presentations to hear an in-depth conversation on a topic of interest, typically presented by our most experienced researchers. But today we are really excited to present to you an exceptional group of emerging researchers who have successfully navigated heats in their areas to be here today. Now, while qualifying with the help of videos, it's absolutely wonderful to have a live event today where we can understand the huge contribution our up-and-coming stars make not only to the university's research programme, but also to society at large. No pressure. The 3-minute thesis format will give us all the opportunity to learn about 10 different research projects spanning a range of disciplines and presented in a way that I am sure will engage and excite us. So why is the 3-minute thesis so successful? First, I think it's because, just as Jessica has said, it's highly effective in communicating the important and impactful research being undertaken by our research students. And I'm in a really fortunate position because I get to see the diverse work that our PhD and research master's students are doing across a really broad set of disciplines. And I'm constantly in awe of the quality and the impact of the work that you're doing. HDR students are the lifeblood of any university, and in particularly a research-intensive university like ours. But as Jess has said, they are also the future makers, not only of our higher education, but of the research and innovation system at large. Now, tonight's presentations are only exposing a small subset of that activity, but it does great credit to the body of work being undertaken by our research students across the university. The second reason the 3MT competition is so successful and important is because it's increasing importance of the concise communication. Virtual communication has now changed the way we search for and consume news. And we live in a time when people are overloaded with information and are becoming used to learning things in a really compressed and time-efficient format. So the ability to communicate a really complex message accurately, efficiently, and in a format that holds our attention is becoming a critical skill for all successful professionals. We've got to be able to communicate complex and sometimes highly nuanced messages concisely. But at the same time, the research that we're undertaking and the methods we're using are becoming more complex as we address more and more difficult research questions. And sometimes these use really sophisticated technology and methods. So communicating what we do, how we do it, and the potential benefits to a non-specialist audience in a single slide and a 180-second presentation is a really significant challenge. For me, anyone who can master that art has acquired a really valuable skill. Now, I know once again this year, the standard of entrance in the competition has been very high and that we're in for a most enjoyable and interesting evening. I hope everyone who has participated in this hybrid competition has benefited from the experience. And I really want to thank everyone who has taken the considerable amount of time needed to prepare the presentations and the staff who have supported the students throughout this process. So I congratulate all of you finalists for making it this far, and I wish you all the best this evening. Thank you.
Hello everyone. My name is Grace Way Harris. I'm a current PhD candidate in the Department of History here at the University of Adelaide, and I'm going to be your MC tonight. Now, I know exactly how our finalists are feeling right now because I too took part in this competition last year. So I'll give you a little bit of advice. Try to enjoy it and just let your passion for your work shine through. Taking a deep breath before you start is always good as well. Now, before we begin, I would like to talk you through the competition rules, the judging criteria, and I would like to introduce you to our judges. So there are some very simple but very challenging rules that our students must follow in the 3MT competition. A single static PowerPoint slide is permitted, but no slide transitions, animations, or movement of any description is allowed. The slide is to be presented from the beginning of the oration as well. No additional electronic media is permitted, no additional props, no costumes, musical instruments, or laboratory equipment. Presentations are of course limited to 3 minutes maximum, and competitors who exceed 3 minutes will be disqualified. Presentations are to be spoken word, so no poems, raps, or songs. Presentations are to commence from the stage. Presentations are considered to have commenced when a presenter starts their presentation either through movement or speech. The decision of the adjudicating panel is final. Now, onto our judging criteria. There are two categories here. The first one is comprehension and content. So did the presentation provide an understanding of the background to the research question being addressed and its significance? Did the presentation clearly describe the key results of the research, including conclusions and outcomes? Did the presentation follow a clear and logical sequence? Was the thesis topic, key results, research significance and outcomes communicated in a language appropriate to a non-specialist audience? Did the speaker avoid scientific jargon? Did they explain terminology and provide adequate background information to illustrate their points? And finally, for that to one category, did the presenter spend an adequate time on each element of their presentation? Did they elaborate for too long on one aspect, or was the presentation too rushed? Now, our second judging category is engagement and communication. So did the oration make the audience want to know more? Was the presenter careful not to trivialise or generalise their research? Did the presenter convey enthusiasm for their research? Did the presenter capture and maintain their audience's attention? Did the speaker have sufficient stage presence, eye contact and vocal range? Did they maintain a steady pace and have a confident stance? And did the PowerPoint slide enhance the presentation? Was it clear, legible and concise? Now, with the rules and judging criteria out of the way, I would like to introduce our panel of judges this evening. So judges, if you could please stand as your name is announced. First, we have Professor Laura Parry, who we have just heard from. Now, Laura is the Pro Vice-Chancellor of Research Excellence here at the University of Adelaide. Welcome, Laura. Our second judge, oh, thank you, Laura. Our second judge is Dr. Doreen Krumbiegel, who is the Director of the Adelaide Graduate Research School. Doreen is a recognised expert in operations, people and project management with extensive experience in working in academia. Our third judge is Dr. Armando Corsi. You can stand, thank you. Okay. Armando is an Associate Professor in Wine Business at the University of Adelaide. His key area of research is the analysis of consumer behaviour, particularly toward wine and other premium foods and beverages. Armando is the author of more than 70 refereed papers, books, chapters, and trade articles on wine and food marketing. Our fourth judge is Wendy Ingman. Wendy is a breast health researcher leading multidisciplinary studies in breast cancer, breastfeeding, and breast development. She provides commentary and professional education on breast issues for the community and healthcare sectors. She is passionate about the importance of community education and advocates for women to be well informed about how they take control of their own breast health. Finally, tonight we have Jeremy Austin. Jeremy is a senior lecturer in the School of Biological Sciences and the Deputy Director of ACAD here at the University of Adelaide. He is an evolutionary biologist working in the fields of ancient DNA, molecular ecology, conservation genetics, and forensic biology. Now, this esteemed judging panel will choose one winner to attend the 2023 Asia Pacific 3 Minute Thesis final. And the judges' winner will also receive a $3,000 cash prize, with the runner-up also receiving a cash prize. The winner's prize is $3,000, the runner-up is $1,500. Now tonight, you, the audience, will also be given the opportunity to choose a winner with our People's Choice Award. After our 10 finalists have finished their presentations, a QR code will appear on the screen and you'll be asked to cast your vote. The winner of the People's Choice Award will receive a $1,250 cash prize. So let's get going. First up, I would like to invite Jacqueline Barsby forward. She's from the Faculty of Sciences, Engineering, Technology, and will be presenting Superfood or Superficial. Jacqueline, would you join me?
Have you ever tried to find something and just felt so overwhelmed? Like, you go to that junk drawer that we all have and we all say we're going to clean, but we never do. If you actually do, congratulations on being better than everyone. Anyway, we go to that junk drawer and you're trying to find a key, but you find 7 keys and they all look exactly the same and you don't know which one is the one that you need, so you start trying them and none of them work and you just get so overwhelmed and you throw the entire drawer across the room. No, that might just be me. Anyway, that's sort of what it's like when you're trying to find information online on a search engine or social media, especially about food and nutrition. You'll be bombarded with posts like this and you don't know which one's right for you. What one's fact or fiction, true, false, a superfood or superficial. Or, in the unwise words of an unwise man, what is fake news? So for my project, I wanted to get a rough idea on what the average person would find when they search the word superfood on a social media platform. So to do this, I gathered a panel of experts, my little pink laptop, and I began typing. I typed the word superfood into Google, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And I found a few things. I found claims. So people saying this food will do this thing. I found people asking questions. Hey, will this food do this thing? I found news articles, breaking news. Superfoods will change the world. I found people just sharing their daily food. Hey guys, these are my chia seed breakfasts. I'm so healthy. And I found people advertising products. Hey guys, this is my chia seed breakfast. It's so healthy, you can be too. $30, link in bio. Eventually, I took all the claims and I presented them to my panel of experts. So that's doctors, dietitians, public health officials, food scientists. And I asked them to rank these claims on a scale of incredibly accurate to incredibly inaccurate. And what I found was incredibly frustrating. Even with 20 plus years of experience and multiple higher education degrees, they couldn't agree. I'd have one expert tell me, yeah, 10 out of 10, this is a superfood. And another one say, nah, this is a 1, super duper, wrong. Eventually, our most accurate platform was Google, but it still only scored a ranking of somewhat accurate, which is way below what the average people want and what they deserve. So I'm continuing this research with the general public, and I'm asking them whether they agree with our experts, what they already know, and how I can get the best information to them. So I guess if I leave you with one message today, it's probably a simple one that you've heard a few times before. Don't believe everything you read on the internet, at least not yet.
Well done, Jacqueline. That was fantastic. Now, we'll go to the audience for a question. If anyone has a question, please raise your hand and we can get a mic to you.
Any one particular superfood come out as consistently being highly rated or more highly rated than any others?
No, so I didn't have a lot of correlation between one superfood over the others. Also, when I looked at them, I did analyse them blindly so that I wouldn't know which one was which initially. I have looked at it since, won't lie, don't remember them all. I did have some that were mentioned a lot more than others, but then that also did give into variability between them because of the way that the claims were thing. But yeah, unfortunately there was no actual magic superfood found. No worries.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much. Please congratulate. I'd now like to introduce our next finalist, Ricky Fernandez, who is from the Faculty of Arts, Business, Law and Economics. His presentation is titled, What is Critical Thinking in English as an Additional Language for Indonesian Teachers? Thank you, Ricky.
Imagine you're learning a new language while having a casual conversation in response to what you hear and know. Before talking, would you believe everything, or would you try to find the truth? If you choose to find the truth, you're doing critical thinking or thinking critically. But what's critical thinking? Critical thinking is for you to decide what to believe and do, but you need reasons and proofs when making the decisions. And why is critical thinking important when learning a new language? Because understanding what someone's saying and being able to think critically about an information help you to decide what to believe and what not to believe. That's why when Elisa and her students are learning English as a new language, they practice speaking with each other to better understand new information and to make better choices about what is true and what isn't. To find out more about what Elisa and her students thought about critical thinking in English as a new language, I talked to them and visited their classroom. I also wanted to understand how they learned and improved their critical thinking skills. After talking to them and visiting their classroom, Elisa, as the teacher, thought that asking questions, reasoning and discussing were important skills in critical thinking, while the students believed that critical thinking was solving problems. The students thought that memorizing words wasn't enough when learning English as a new language. That's why they like to discuss and solve problems together with their friends and teacher. Elisa also agreed with her students that solving problems was important to improve critical thinking, and that's because when making solutions, important decisions are needed. But Elisa wasn't sure if the activities were interesting for her students because some of them were not fully active using English during conversations. Also, Elisa didn't have enough skills to create more interesting practices and activities to engage all of her students. So my research can tell other researchers and experts in critical thinking to address these complex challenges, especially for helping Elisa and her students. This can be done by giving them more opportunities to engage in fun and interesting activities, which make them great critical thinkers while using English as a new language. This is in part because learning and improving critical thinking in a new language will help Elisa and her students, and even all of us, to exercise making wiser choices and decisions to avoid fake information and eventually improve the best quality of our lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricky. That's fantastic. Does anyone have a question they would like to ask?
Thanks, Ricky. I wonder if you saw any examples of students in this context dealing with something to do with fake news or being critical around that area.
Yeah, so I was involved in this situation. So I was observing the classroom, and one of the activities that the students did was to actually think about moving the capital city of Jakarta, Indonesia, to Borneo, which was quite significant for me that year 10 students, Indonesian students who don't speak English for the first language, they were trying to discuss about how to move the capital city, thinking about the benefits and also the disadvantages of moving the capital city, in which I thought that was quite significant on how to show the criticality, the sophisticated thinking while using English as a new language. So that was the example of the research that I've been conducting.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, next up, we have Samantha Edwards, who is from the Faculty of Health and Medical Sciences. Her presentation is titled Two Wrongs Don't Make a Right, Development of Parkinson's Disease Following Traumatic Brain Injury.
Picture this. You're playing a game of footy with some mates. You and a friend collide, a proper KO, like these guys here. You both end up on the ground, knocked out, and wake up a few seconds or minutes later with a sore head, a concussion, and a 50 to 60% increased risk of Parkinson's disease, a debilitating disease that causes loss of brain cells from regions of the brain that control movement, decision-making, and memory. And then, 30, 40, maybe 50 years later, your friend is diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. They can no longer play footy or even move around their house the way they used to, and their personality and mood start to change as well. Meanwhile, you're fine, other than the normal effects of aging. So, what happened that led to your friend being diagnosed with Parkinson's while you continue with life as normal? Well, maybe they grew up in a rural environment where pesticides are commonly used, had a bad viral infection earlier in their life. In addition to head injuries, exposure to things in our environment like pesticides and viruses have been associated with increased risk of Parkinson's disease. What we don't know is why certain individuals who have these experiences throughout their life develop Parkinson's, while others don't. That's where my research comes in. In order to study this in the lab, we need research models of the disease that accurately represent individuals with Parkinson's. In my PhD, we are working to develop 2-hit models of Parkinson's that combine several of those risk factors I mentioned, rather than studying them in isolation. What we think is happening is that a first hit, like a pesticide or virus, damages and weakens brain cells in regions of the brain associated with Parkinson's, and a second hit later in life, like a concussion, makes this damage worse and leads to disease. My results so far support this theory. 2 hits of a pesticide and a virus severely affect brain function within a week of injury, compared to a single hit of a pesticide or a virus. Furthermore, over time, early symptoms of Parkinson's start to develop, like constipation, loss of sense of smell, and tremor. What is still unclear is how these impairments progress over time, and whether they affect other functions associated with Parkinson's, like decision-making and memory. My research aims to explore these questions, as well as whether changes in the brain known to be involved in Parkinson's are worsened in our 2-hit model, which may explain some of the symptoms we are seeing. Together, this research will help doctors to identify individuals at risk of Parkinson's disease after a head injury, which is a critical first step to protect those brain cells before they are lost. Ultimately, the hope is that knowing who is at risk will help us to develop more effective prevention and treatment for this devastating disease.
Well done. Fantastic work, Samantha. Now, any questions? Oh, yep, up the back.
Hi, what model were you using to test your theories about the 2 hits? Are you using like a model organism or something else, and why did you choose it?
Yeah, so it's a preclinical model, a rodent model, and we're using that because obviously we can't test it in humans. We don't want to be doing that. There's a fair bit of clinical research anyway. And yeah, so we sort of wanted to go back and actually be able to look at really specifically what functional deficits we're seeing with that 2-hit and what changes we're seeing in the brain. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Samantha. Our next finalist tonight is from the Faculty of Sciences, Engineering and Technology. Would you please welcome Chelsea Matthews with her presentation, What's in the Pot?
There are so many different types of dogs. Labradors, greyhounds, huskies. They all look completely different and they're good at different things. But surprisingly, the same thing is true for cannabis. Some types of cannabis can get you high, but some types of cannabis make a chemical that stops seizures in children with epilepsy. Some types of cannabis can be used to make strong fabric that's better than cotton and needs less water. And some types of cannabis are really, really oily, and we can use them to make biofuels and cooking oil and even paint. And the thing that makes these plants so different, the thing that gives us hundreds of different types of dogs, is differences in their DNA. Every living thing has DNA, and this is cannabis DNA. Hidden inside of DNA are patterns that give instructions for that living thing called genes. Each gene does one specific thing, like decide how tall the plant is. And like a puzzle, all of the genes in any living thing decide nearly everything about it. A dog's genes decide whether it is a corgi or a Great Dane. And the genes of a cannabis plant decide whether it will get you high or just make you cough. In my work, I'm searching the DNA of as many types of cannabis as possible to work out which plants have which genes. Some genes are found in all types of cannabis, and they are what make cannabis cannabis. But I'm really interested in the genes that are found in only some types, because they are the genes that make some types of cannabis make medicine and others make really great dresses. So, by understanding the genes of cannabis, we will be able to breed brand new types with amazing applications. Like imagine a cannabis plant that makes huge amounts of the chemicals that stop seizures in children. We can make a life-changing medicine more cost-effective. Or a cannabis plant that grows really well in dry places and makes huge amounts of oil. We can make more sustainable biofuels in a changing climate. Or maybe plants with brand new applications that we haven't even thought of. The reason that we don't know much about cannabis genes is because it is really hard to do research on something that's illegal. But those laws are changing, and this is giving us an opportunity. There are hundreds of different types of cannabis, with applications in medicine, in cooking, and even in construction. It's clearly very useful. But my research into the genes of cannabis will allow us to understand exactly what makes these plants amazing and to make future plants even more astounding. Thank you.
Well done, Chelsea. It's
Thanks.
not easy to get up here and having a mic change like that. You've done really, really well. Do you have any questions? Okay, in the front here.
I'll repeat the question. How will we show that genes are linked to a particular characteristic? So the first part of my project is basically finding all the genes, which is more difficult than it sounds. But I'll be using, essentially, getting a heap of cannabis DNA from plants that I know things about, and then we can work out which genes are in plants with particular characteristics and link them that way. I do bioinformatics, so I only work on a computer. I don't do lab work, which is a good thing because I'm very clumsy. And so that kind of, to be 100% sure about these kind of things, you might do like some gene editing and like knock out a gene to check that was definitely the right one. But this gives us a really great place to start. They just found a gene in tomatoes that makes them more tasty, and now they're breeding it into new types of tomatoes. So we can all have tastier tomatoes. It's exactly what I'm doing, just with cannabis.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Well done. Now, our next finalist is Maggie Paul, who is from the Faculty of Arts, Business Law and Economics. Her presentation is titled, Damn Your Passport, Prove You're a Citizen. Take it away, Maggie.
This is Samira. I met her at the Magistrate Court, which is the first level of criminal courts in India. She was accused by the local police of being a Bangladeshi infiltrator, meaning a dangerous outsider. Samira, a 50-year-old domestic worker, asserts that she's an Indian and claims to be falsely accused because she's a poor Muslim and because the law does not require any evidence from the accuser. In fact, under the criminal and immigration system she is caught up within, the responsibility is on her to prove her Indian citizenship. But how would she do that? Like most of us would, I suppose, if forced to prove our national identity. Samira, you see, submits many, many state ID documents, including among 12 other IDs, her Indian passport, a national ID card, a voter ID card, and even an allotment letter for a house given to her by the government itself. The final judgment still stamps her as an infiltrator, ordering 2 years of imprisonment and eventual deportation from the country. From her home. Bizarre, right? This absurdity is what I explore in my research. India's constitution guarantees equal rights to all, and being a citizen should protect from situations such as Samira's. But we heard how this is not the case. I argue, therefore, that political rights are not enough, and that poverty degrades citizenship to a fading promise. By talking with Samira and 25 others like her at the courtroom in India, along with the police and lawyers, I have seen how the state's continued framing of migration as infiltration by outsiders and enemies of India, especially from the neighboring state of Bangladesh, has made citizenship unstable for poor Muslims within India. Proving nationality, proving you belong, becomes increasingly difficult for the poor when their state ID documents themselves count for nothing, and when accusing them of being an outsider becomes easy and legally accepted. By looking at this over time, I argue how this is the product of India's colonial history and why we need to overcome that past to have a truly inclusive citizenship in the present. Over 1.9 million people already face potential statelessness and lifelong detention in the border states of India. Due to this story that migration is infiltration and because of how difficult it can be to prove nationality. My research helped shape a different story about poverty and belonging, so as to push hard for a just and stable citizenship for people like Samira. Meanwhile, Samira continues to fight to remain in the only land she has ever known as her home. Thanks so much.
Well done, Maggie. Okay, we're into the second half now with finalist number 6, who is Joshua Kawor from the Faculty of Health and Medical Sciences. His presentation is titled The Adelaide Score, Artificial Intelligence for Surgical Recovery. Take it away, Joshua.
Hospital delays. You feel like you're stuck in a traffic jam, wasting your time as a patient, and it's costing you and other taxpayers. It also increases the risk that you could pick up a brand new disease, like infections or blood clots. For people who need surgery, these issues are even worse. After surgery, you're in pain, you're anxious, and you can't sleep in an unfamiliar bed. You hate the bland hospital food. You're irritated by the hospital noise, and your skin's getting pricked by needles for blood tests. You just want to be home with your family. Well, I'm a doctor working here in Adelaide, and that's what I want. That's what my group at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital wants, and that's why we created the Adelaide Score. The Adelaide Score is an AI algorithm that we've made from local hospital data that predicts a general surgery patient's chance of being discharged from hospital the next day. Sounds cool, but what does it look like? Well, behold, a hospital of the future. Tried and tested practices that have worked since the 1800s, leveled up using AI, turning those frustrating traffic jams into a high-tech superhighway. You see the number above each patient's head, ranging from 0 to 100? Well, that's their Adelaide score, or their chance out of 100 of being discharged the next day. 0% means there's no chance they're leaving. 100% means they're definitely going. Of course, healthcare staff no longer write on parchment scrolls. Nowadays, we use an electronic system. The Adelaide Score algorithm will be integrated into this and accessible to all using computers and phones. To make the algorithm, we used information on patient vital signs and blood tests collected worldwide, so it will help people worldwide. In my PhD, I tested the Adelaide Score, and it works. In fact, it works so well that we got support from local hospitals, Parliament, and the media, who've called it a healthcare breakthrough that could put Adelaide's great name in hospitals around the world. And I agree, because the Adelaide Score doesn't automate or require discharge, nor does it replace any doctor. What it does provide is a highly intelligent and accurate predictive tool that can update in real time without effort from anyone. And because it's AI, like a growing child, it'll actually learn and get even more accurate with time. We all know someone whose life could get better because of the Adelaide score, because the Adelaide score is for everyone in healthcare: nurses, doctors, allied health team, and of course, the patient and their family. It allows everyone to prioritize their tasks ahead of time to safely get people home quicker after surgery. Revolutionary technology developed locally with benefits for all. That is the Adelaide score.
Thank you. More fascinating research. Any questions for Joshua?
Thank you. I thought that was fascinating. I'm a registered nurse myself. What score is deemed, at what point is someone deemed fit to go home? Is that the ultimate aim of the Adelaide score?
So the ultimate decision to go home is still left to the treating team. This just gives a likelihood, based on the existing data, that they will leave in the next day or 24 hours.
So they would have to reach 100 for that to happen?
So we're currently moving on to an actual implementation study, which will be at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. And within that study, we're sort of sectioning off over 90% as sort of a high priority patient that's very likely. Then our drop-offs are quite steep after that. So it goes from 70 to 90 as like sort of semi-likely, and then anything below 70, we're sort of not happy with as like likely to go home. So to answer your question, above 90.
Thank you.
Well done. Another round of applause. For our next presenter, who is Amy Rose Westcott. Amy Rose is from the Faculty of Sciences, Engineering and Technology, and her presentation is titled Powering Coastal Protection. So please welcome Amy Rose to the stage.
We could potentially save trillions of dollars over the next 80 years, simply by protecting coastlines. This is because almost half the global population lives within 100 kilometers of a coastline. That is around 4 billion people and a lot of infrastructure that are vulnerable to the impacts of coastal erosion. Ultimately, coastal erosion is driven by the power of ocean waves, eroding and transporting sediment. To rein in this power, we often build barriers, like a seawall or a breakwater, for example, but these can be rather expensive and can have a negative environmental impact. So what if instead of stopping the waves, we could remove some of their destructive power? Well, we can, because ocean wave energy converters are devices that can convert the ocean wave energy into a form infinitely more attractive to humans: electricity. But how many would we need, and how should we place them? To answer these questions, we'll be using mathematics to model an array or a collection of these devices, as mathematics allows us to simplify a system so that we can understand it better. I'll be looking at floating devices like these, which harness energy by oscillating up and down. This motion creates waves, and the waves created by different devices can interact and be amplified or reduced, which will affect power capture. Now, in a simplified version of this problem, we have shown, mathematically, that an array can extract most of the wave energy over a broad range of wave frequencies by manipulating these interactions. This is based on the idea that the more destructive power we can take out of the waves, the better the coastal protection. But maybe it would be better to target the specific wave frequencies that cause the most damage. Or we may want to be able to switch between generating power and protecting coastlines, depending on the environmental conditions. Well, we can explore all of these options and more relatively quickly using a mathematical model, and therefore build our understanding of how we could repurpose the power of ocean waves. Based on the mathematics, we therefore hope to provide recommendations of how we could power coastal protection to move from the scene at the top to the one at the bottom. Splitting the cost of generating power with coastal protection would also help to make wave energy converters a more competitive renewable energy technology. Can you imagine clean energy 24 hours a day that provides coastal protection and doesn't cost the Earth? That would benefit far more than the proportion of the population living near coastlines. But right here, right now in Australia, that is over 90% of us. So, here at the University of Adelaide, we're using mathematics to understand how we might power coastal protection. Thank you.
Well done. You did really well. Do we have any questions?
Do you have any way into actually testing this? Do you have any collaborations that you can test in real life?
Yes, so I'm just working on the theoretical side, but it's part of a broader project, and there are people doing tests in wave basins, wave flumes as well, and then also we correspond checking it with numerical modelling as well, so to get some kind of an idea. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy Rose. Our next speaker is from the Faculty of Arts, Business Law and Economics. Would you please welcome Trang Dang with her presentation, The Impact of Female Education on Material Healthcare Utilisation.
According to the United Nations, every 2 minutes, a woman dies during pregnancy or childbirth. Pregnancy is still a shockingly dangerous experience for millions of women, especially in developing countries. When I look at this image, I see a diverse group of pregnant women from all walks of life, united by that shared hope for a healthy and safe childbirth. I'm sure you can feel too. The health of pregnant women before, during, and after childbirth is essential for ensuring good outcomes for the babies and our society. Better doctors, nurses, midwives, facilities, and services are now available for maternal health care. However, women in developing countries, especially those living in rural and remote areas, face additionally challenges in accessing health care. For example, a lack of awareness about the benefits of modern medical care can be a barrier to their use. Besides making healthcare services more accessible, what else can be done to reduce health risks for pregnant women? Can education tackle this issue? In my PhD, I explore how female education affects the use of maternal healthcare services. I look at Vietnam, a developing country in Asia, using a survey of 1 million households from different ethnic groups. Before 1991, children were not required to attend school. Since 1991, children under 15 years old were made to complete at least primary education. Then I compare women before and after the policy changed and measure the impact. What I have found: first, women who stay school longer are more likely to have regular pregnancy checkups. Second, they're more likely to give birth at hospital with professional support. And third, they're more likely to use safe birth control methods. I have shown that increasing schooling makes women more likely to use healthcare services regularly. The finding will help policymakers understand the importance of supporting female education. If we take action now, we can save almost 800 pregnant women from dying per day. We all want to see pregnant women have an equal chance for healthy and safe childbirth for a better future.
Well done. Do we have any questions for Trang from the audience?
So what kind of education is your research suggesting would be most beneficial?
For my findings, we suggest that people should have at least higher primary education. Yep, starting from lower secondary. Starting from lower education, the school, especially in developing countries, they start to understand how biology, how the bodies works, and it will be beneficial for them when they become grown adults. And when they get married, they also can get informative decision about their health. Yeah, and they can make good decisions for their children in the future.
Thank you, Trang. Well done. Next up, we have Ashley Geiger from the Faculty of Health and Medical Sciences. Her presentation is titled Fighting Blindness with Gene Editing. Thank you, Ashley.
You're going blind and there's nothing we can do. Can you imagine hearing that? Well, it is reality for around 2 million people worldwide diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa. This disease destroys the rod cells in the retina of your eye. They are responsible for your night vision and your peripheral vision. So as they die, your visual field shrinks, darkening at the edges, like what you can see behind me. But sadly, this is not even the end point. Most adults and kids with this disease go totally blind. And there's no cure. There aren't even any treatments. There is nothing we can do. This disease, it's woven into the very fabric of who these people are. It's in their DNA. The DNA in our cells is the instruction manual for our bodies. But for patients with the most common kind of retinitis pigmentosa, they've got a mistake in their instructions. One wrong letter out of literally billions. And it causes an important rod cell protein to become toxic. Quite simply, their eye cells are dying. But what if we could say, you're going blind, but I know how to fight back? I'm a genome engineer. That means I specialise in making changes to DNA, and I am passionate about using my skills to help people. So I saw this problem and I said, let's fix it using my favourite tool, CRISPR. Now, CRISPR, you can think of it as like molecular scissors, but what's exciting is I have worked out how to target it to the exact place in the DNA with that mistake and cut it out to stop that toxic protein being made. Because, well, no more toxic protein means no more rod cell death, and patients can maybe hang on to the vision they still have left. It's a pretty cool idea. And look, I'm not the only one who's been thinking about it. But the problem is no one is yet doing this in a way that we think could work directly in a human eye. So that's where I come in. In my PhD, I've been developing the next generation of CRISPR therapeutics for retinitis pigmentosa. My research has shown that when I use CRISPR to target the DNA of millions of cells in a dish, it is so good at cutting out that mistake, I basically can't find it anymore. Now I am testing this in a model of the disease. I'm using CRISPR in a real retina, just like we want to do in the clinic one day. And if this works, it has the potential to change how we treat genetic eye disease forever. With CRISPR in my corner, I am fighting for the sight of patients with retinitis pigmentosa. And I am going to stop this in its tracks. Just you wait and see.
Thank you, Ashley, that was excellent. Okay, any questions? Oh, there's
a few.
Sorry, yeah, you got a few.
Thank you. I'm wondering if you can talk about what benefits you see of using CRISPR to cut out toxic genes rather than, say, delivering healthy genes like in Lux-Turner therapies.
That's a super amazing question. Thank you so much for asking it. So in this particular disease, it's actually the presence of the toxic protein that's the problem. So whilst we might be able to deliver another healthy copy of the gene, it doesn't matter because we've got that toxic protein still being made by the gene that is what we call endogenous, so already existing in the body. Doesn't matter how many good copies you have in this disease, if the bad one is there, you are going to get cellular death, so death of those cells in the retina, and it's going to cause that loss of vision. So to treat this disease, we really have to actually treat the DNA issue at the DNA source by eliminating the problem. There are many diseases where gene supplementation, so providing a healthy copy, is a really excellent strategy. And we already do this in clinical trials, and in some cases, I think, moving to the clinic as well. And sometimes it can be appropriate. But we're still on that journey to really developing technology to tackle diseases where replacement's simply not enough. And that's what I'm very lucky to be a part of.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Okay, we are up to our final presenter for this evening, who is Shan Karimi Arpanahi. He's from the Faculty of Sciences, Engineering and Technology. And tonight his presentation is titled Path to Cheap Green Electricity. Whenever you're ready.
Like many of you, I'm feeling the squeeze of the economy. Prices are up, interest rates are rising, and just recently, our electricity bills increased by over 30%. That's an extra $500 we're all paying every year. So who's to blame? It was actually because of high coal and gas prices that happened last year, as well as our own reliance on them for electricity. Now here's a puzzle. Renewable energy like solar and wind is the cheapest source of electricity, and it's also much better for our planet. So why on earth haven't we switched to them already? Well, it's because they come with many challenges too. A big one is their reliance on sunshine and wind, which are not predictable, making renewable power just as uncertain. Imagine our electricity grid as a perfectly balanced seesaw. On one side, we have the generated electricity, and on the other, our energy demand. Maintaining this balance is crucial. So, if a solar farm, because of a passing cloud, for example, ends up generating less electricity than predicted, the seesaw can tip, potentially causing blackouts. So renewables that do not meet their predictions face significant financial penalties. This makes them a risky investment and slows the energy transition. But what if we could make renewable power predictable, regardless of the weather? 3 years ago, this question led me to my PhD journey. To answer it, I worked on a unique solution by adding a battery to a renewable plant. But it's not just any battery. It's a battery with a brain. This smart battery knows how to store energy and release it every second to make renewable power predictable. But because batteries are expensive, I developed a new data science method that determines the exact benefits that a battery provides to a renewable plant. From there, I created 2 computer programs. One to find the most effective battery for each renewable plant, and another to manage this battery in real time. To test them, I simulated the solution on 20 different wind and solar farms, and the results were interesting. If applied to all renewables in Australia, we could save $50 million every year, enough to pay the electricity bills of 30,000 homes. To make this happen, I've started talking to investors and potential customers to commercialize this research and make renewables a more attractive investment. This will mean more renewable energy for the grid, less greenhouse gases for our planet, and cheaper, greener electricity for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I love the idea of cheaper electricity. Do we have any questions? A final question.
As someone who's looking at getting solar, what sort of batteries are you talking about for solar and wind farms, like at a sort of commercial scale?
You mean the size of them?
Yeah, size of them.
Yeah, so I mean, at the moment, there's that the idea is not very interesting because economically it doesn't make sense for the utility scale solar or wind farms to install a battery. Mm-hmm. They're better off not installing it. Yeah. But in my research, I mean, based on the modeling that I've done and modeling the market, power grid, everything, I found that the size would be maybe 1/10 of the solar farm. So let's say if there's a 100 megawatt solar farm, a battery with 10 megawatt capacity would be the one that would make the power predictable and would bring enough economic benefits that makes it economical to invest in it and install it.
Yeah, nice. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, well done, everyone. You can relax now. You've done such an exceptional job tonight. Okay, the results are in. Now, before we get to that, can I please invite all contestants back to the stage so we can give you a final congratulations. Please come up. Good. Please keep your round of applause going for Jacqueline Barsby, Ricky Fernandez, Samantha Edwards, Chelsea Matthews, Maggie Paul, Joshua Kavor, Amy Rose Westcott, Trang Dang, Ashley Geiger, and Shan Karimi Apanahi. Thank you all, you did really well. I now invite Laura Parry back to the stage to hand out the prizes to our winners. So we will announce our People's Choice Award first. Drum roll. The winner of the People's Choice Award goes to Jacqueline Barsby. Well done. Okay, now on to our judge category. Our judges runner-up is Ashley Geiger. Okay, the big one. Our 2023 Three Minute Thesis winner is Chelsea Matthews. Congratulations once again, not just to the winners, but to all of our students who have presented tonight. You guys did amazing. It's not easy, trust me. It's really hard. You did a fantastic job. And thank you to our audience for being part of our special night tonight. Don't forget, Research Tuesdays resumes as per normal next month, so please check the Research Tuesdays website for more information. And thank you very much. I hope you have a great night.